The desperate call. The crystal spires of New Viridian gleamed like jewels against the purple sky, their translucent surfaces catching the light of twin suns. Captain Lyra Voss stood on the observation deck of the defense station, her 6 arms working frantically across multiple control panels. Her species, the Viridians, had evolved from tree-dwelling creatures, and their multiple limbs made them excellent multitaskers. But today, even her enhanced coordination couldn't keep up with the cascade of emergency reports flooding her screens. "Captain, we're receiving distress signals from the Omega mining colony," reported Lieutenant Zeph from his communication station. His voice carried the harmonic undertones typical of Viridian speech, but it trembled with fear. "The entire outer rim is going dark." Lyra's large, compound eyes shifted to the tactical display. Red warning indicators spread across the star map like a plague. The Ravager horde had arrived in their sector 3 weeks ago, and already 7 colony worlds had gone silent. These weren't ordinary invaders seeking territory or resources. The Ravagers were something far worse, a parasitic species that consumed entire ecosystems, leaving behind empty, lifeless husks of worlds. "How long until they reach the inner systems?" Lyra asked, though she dreaded the answer. "At their current rate of advancement, approximately 72 hours until they reach New Viridian," Zeph replied, his secondary arms trembling as he worked the controls. Lyra's mind raced through their options. The Viridian Defense Force consisted of 15 patrol ships and 3 heavy cruisers, respectable for maintaining peace in their sector, but utterly inadequate against a force that had already devoured worlds defended by much larger fleets. The Ravagers moved in massive bioships, living vessels that could repair themselves and grow stronger by consuming defeated enemies. "Any response from the Galactic Council?" she asked, though she knew what the answer would be. "Negative, Captain. The Alterian Federation has withdrawn their fleets to defend their core worlds. The Zephyrian Empire claims they're monitoring the situation. The Crystalline Collective won't even respond to our communications." Lyra's frustration boiled over. The great galactic powers, who had maintained peace for centuries, were abandoning them when they needed help most. The Ravagers represented a threat to all galactic life, yet fear had made cowards of once proud civilizations. "Captain," called Chief Engineer Kron from the technical station, his voice carrying a note of desperate hope, "I've been scanning through our emergency communication protocols. There's an old frequency, one we haven't used in over 2 centuries. It leads to a system the ancient surveys cataloged as having primitive life." Primitive life. Lyra turned to face him. What kind of primitive life? Kron's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he accessed the historical records. "A species called humans. They inhabit the 3rd planet of a yellow star system. Last recorded observation shows they had barely achieved spaceflight using chemical propulsion. The survey team noted they were technologically centuries behind galactic standard, but showed unusual creativity and aggression." Lieutenant Zeph made a sound of disbelief. "You want to contact a species that can barely leave their own planet. What could they possibly do against the Ravagers?" Lyra stared at the tactical display, watching another colony world's signal fade to black. Desperation had a way of making impossible options seem reasonable. Do we have any other choice? Every major power in the galaxy has either fled or refused to help. Maybe these humans have allies we don't know about. At worst, we waste a few minutes. At best, they can relay our message to someone who can help. "Transmitting on the human frequency now," Kron announced. "The signal will take approximately 6 hours to reach their system." The message was simple but desperate. "This is Captain Lyra Voss of the Viridian Defense Force. Our worlds are under attack by an extinction-level threat. We require immediate assistance. Any aid you can provide will be greatly appreciated. Coordinates and technical specifications attached." As the transmission raced across space at faster-than-light speeds, Lyra could only hope that somewhere in the vast darkness, someone would hear their cry for help. 6 hours later and 3,000 light-years away, Admiral Marcus Kane was reviewing fleet training reports in his office aboard New Geneva Station when the priority alert chimed. At 62 years old, Kane had spent 4 decades building humanity's secret military capabilities, preparing for the day when Earth would take its place among the galactic powers. His weathered face bore the scars of countless battles fought in the shadows, conflicts the rest of the galaxy knew nothing about. "Admiral," came the voice of Commander Sarah Torres through his communication system. "We're receiving an unknown transmission on one of the old first contact frequencies. The language is unrecognized, but the translation matrix is working on it." Kane straightened in his chair. Unknown transmissions were exactly what they'd been waiting for. For over 2 centuries, humanity had been quietly observing galactic civilization, learning from intercepted communications and salvaged technology. They'd built a military force that rivaled any in the galaxy, but they kept their true capabilities hidden, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. "Put it through to my office and have Dr. Chen report here immediately." The transmission played through his speakers, and within minutes, the translation software had decoded the desperate message. Kane read the text twice, his expression growing more serious with each word. By the time Dr. Elena Chen arrived, Kane had already begun accessing long-range sensor data. "Admiral, you said this was urgent." Dr. Chen was Earth's leading expert in xenobiology and had spent years preparing for humanity's eventual emergence into galactic politics. "Read this," Kane said, handing her the translated message. "Tell me what you think." Dr. Chen's eyes widened as she processed the content. 12 billion sentients under attack by a parasitic species. "Admiral, this could be the opportunity we've been waiting for. Our debut on the galactic stage as saviors rather than conquerors." Kane nodded, moving to his office's large display screen. "Computer, show me current deployment status of Battle Group 7. The screen lit up with tactical information, showing the positions of Earth's military assets. Battle Group 7 consisted of 68 ships, including 5 carrier-class vessels, 12 battlecruisers, 25 destroyers, and support craft. All were equipped with humanity's most advanced technology, much of it based on innovations that the rest of the galaxy had never imagined. "The Viridians," Dr. Chen said, accessing her xenobiological databases. "We have extensive observational data on them. Peaceful trading civilization. 6-limbed humanoids, highly intelligent but not particularly militaristic. They've never shown aggressive tendencies toward other species." Kane studied the galactic map, calculating jump distances and fleet logistics. How long to reach their coordinates? "With our latest quantum tunnel drives, approximately 14 hours for the full battle group. And if we don't intervene?" Dr. Chen reviewed the technical data included with the distress signal. "Based on the attack patterns described, this Ravager horde appears to be an exponentially expanding threat. If they consume the Viridian worlds, they'll likely continue expanding until they encounter Earth." Kane was quiet for a long moment, weighing the implications. Humanity's policy had always been careful observation rather than intervention in galactic affairs. But this was different. This was a direct request for help from a peaceful species facing complete annihilation, and potentially a threat to Earth itself. "Contact Fleet Command," Kane said finally. "I want Battle Group 7 ready for emergency deployment within 6 hours. Full combat loadout." "Admiral, are you certain about this course of action?" Dr. Chen asked. "This would be humanity's first open intervention in galactic affairs." Kane turned back to the display showing the Viridian distress signal. "Doctor, we've spent 2 centuries preparing for our moment to join galactic civilization. We can either wait for the perfect opportunity that may never come, or we can make our debut by saving 12 billion lives." Within hours, the massive human fleet was moving through quantum tunnels toward Viridian space. The ships were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Sleek, predatory designs that incorporated technology from a dozen different worlds, enhanced by human innovation, and built with Earth's industrial might. Each vessel was a testament to humanity's greatest strength, their ability to learn, adapt, and improve upon anything they encountered. As the fleet traveled through folded space, Kane stood on the bridge of the flagship UES Indomitable, watching stars streak past in brilliant lines of light. His crew worked with quiet efficiency, men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment. They were about to announce humanity's presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. "Admiral," reported Commander Torres from her station, "we're receiving updated intelligence from our sensor probes. The Ravager force is larger than initially estimated, approximately 300 bioships, including several massive motherships." Kane nodded grimly. "And the Viridian Defense Forces? 18 ships total, Captain. They're making a final stand at their home world." "All ships, this is Admiral Kane," he announced over the fleet communication system. "In approximately 8 hours, we will drop out of quantum tunnel space in the Viridian system. This will be humanity's first major military operation on the galactic stage. We're not just fighting to save the Viridians. We're fighting to establish Earth as a power that stands with the innocent against extinction. Make me proud." As the human armada raced through the void toward their destiny, neither Kane nor his crew could imagine how profoundly this single act of intervention would change the course of galactic history. When humans answered the call, the space around New Viridian burned with the fury of 1,000 suns as Captain Lyra Voss watched her world die. The Ravager bioships moved through the outer defense perimeter like living nightmares, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns as they consumed the debris of destroyed Viridian vessels. Each enemy ship grew larger and stronger with every victory, incorporating the materials and technology of their defeated foes. "Captain, we've lost the orbital defense platforms," Lieutenant Zeph reported, his harmonic voice cracking with strain. "The Ravagers are beginning their descent toward the planet's surface." Lyra's compound eyes tracked the tactical display, watching helplessly as red markers descended toward her home world. 12 billion Viridians lived on New Viridian and its moon colonies. In a few hours, they would all be consumed by creatures that viewed entire civilizations as nothing more than food. "Any response to our distress signals?" she asked, though hope had long since fled her hearts. "Nothing from the galactic powers," Zeph replied. "But Captain, we are detecting massive quantum tunnel signatures at the system's edge. Something big is coming through." Lyra's attention snapped to the long-range sensors. The readings were unlike anything in her experience. Multiple large objects were emerging from quantum tunnel space, but their energy signatures were completely unfamiliar. "How many ships?" "I'm reading. This can't be right. Over 60 distinct vessels, Captain." "Wait, I'm receiving a transmission on the human frequency we used." "Put it through." A deep, confident voice filled the command center, speaking accented but clear galactic standard. "Viridian Defense Force. This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress call. Sorry we're late to the party." Lyra's multiple arms froze over her controls. The humans had responded, but 60 ships. The primitive species their records described barely had the technology for interplanetary travel, let alone interstellar war fleets. "Admiral Kane," she replied, struggling to keep her voice steady. "This is Captain Lyra Voss. We weren't expecting such a substantial response. The enemy force consists of approximately 300 bioships with regenerative capabilities." "Copy that, Captain. We've been monitoring the situation during our approach. Those are some ugly customers you're dealing with. Request permission to begin combat operations." Before Lyra could respond, her sensor operator called out in amazement, "Captain, you need to see this. The human fleet. It's not like anything in our databases." The main display showed the approaching human armada, and Lyra felt her breathing stop. These weren't the primitive chemical rockets their records described. The human ships were works of art and engineering genius, sleek predatory designs that seemed to bend space around them. Energy signatures indicated weapons and defensive systems beyond anything the Viridians had encountered. "Admiral Kane," Lyra said, her voice filled with wonder. "Your fleet appears to be significantly more advanced than our historical records indicated." She could almost hear the smile in Kane's voice. "We've been busy these past few centuries, Captain. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have some pest control to handle." The human fleet spread out in a formation that defied conventional military doctrine. Instead of the standard battle lines used by galactic powers, they moved in fluid, dynamic patterns that reminded Lyra of predator pack behavior. The lead ships were already engaging the outer Ravager swarm with weapons that created brilliant cascades of energy. "Fascinating," breathed Chief Engineer Kron from his station. "Their weapon systems appear to use a combination of plasma projection and what looks like directed gravitational manipulation. I've never seen anything like it." The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The Ravagers, accustomed to overwhelming their enemies through sheer numbers and regenerative abilities, found themselves facing an opponent that fought with terrifying creativity and precision. Human ships moved in ways that defied physics, using what appeared to be localized space-time manipulation to appear behind enemy formations and disappear before retaliation could arrive. "Captain," Zeph reported, his voice filled with awe, "the human vessels are using some kind of adaptive technology. Their weapons are changing frequency and composition in real time to counter Ravager bio-armor regeneration." Admiral Kane's voice came through the communication channel again. "Captain Voss, we're going to need your local knowledge of the Ravager attack patterns. My tactical officer is patching you into our battle network." Suddenly, Lyra's screens filled with tactical data unlike anything she'd ever seen. The human battle management system tracked every enemy vessel, predicted their movement patterns, and coordinated attacks with mathematical precision. But more than that, it adapted and learned with each engagement, becoming more effective as the battle progressed. "How is this possible?" she whispered. "Human ships use artificial intelligence networks that share learning experiences across the entire fleet," explained a new voice on the channel. "I'm Dr. Elena Chen, Admiral Kane's xenobiological advisor. We've been studying galactic combat patterns for 2 centuries, waiting for our opportunity to test our theories." The tide of battle was turning rapidly. Ravager bioships that had seemed invincible were being systematically dismantled by human weapons that targeted their biological weaknesses. The enemy's regenerative abilities became useless when human ships could predict and counter their adaptive responses faster than they could evolve. But the most shocking moment came when the largest Ravager mothership, a massive creature the size of a small moon, attempted to flee the system. 3 human vessels moved to intercept, and Lyra watched in amazement as they somehow created a localized gravity well that prevented the bioship's escape. "Captain Voss," Admiral Kane's voice carried a note of grim satisfaction, "we've neutralized the primary threat. However, our intelligence suggests this was only a scouting force. The main Ravager swarm is still out there somewhere." "Admiral," Lyra replied, her voice filled with gratitude and wonder, "you've saved 12 billion lives today. How can we ever repay this debt?" "No debt, Captain. We're neighbors in this galaxy, and neighbors help each other. But I'd like to propose something more permanent. Earth would like to establish a formal alliance with the Viridian Empire." As the last Ravager bioship was destroyed, Lyra realized that everything had changed. The humans weren't the primitive species their records described. They were a military power that rivaled anything the galaxy had seen, yet they used their strength to protect rather than conquer. "Admiral Kane," she said, "I believe my government would be very interested in such an alliance, but might I ask why you kept your true capabilities hidden for so long?" Kane's response revealed the depth of human strategic thinking. "Captain, we learned early that the galaxy can be a dangerous place for newcomers. We decided it was better to watch, learn, and prepare rather than announce our presence before we were ready. Today seemed like the right time for our introduction." Within hours, news of the human intervention spread across galactic communication networks. The great powers that had refused to help the Viridians suddenly found themselves scrambling to understand this new player that had appeared from nowhere. The Alterian Federation, which had abandoned the Viridians to their fate, now sent urgent diplomatic messages requesting meetings with human representatives. But the most significant change was in how the galaxy viewed the balance of power. The humans had demonstrated technology and tactics that made traditional military doctrine obsolete. More importantly, they'd shown they were willing to risk their lives for strangers, fighting not for conquest or glory, but simply because it was the right thing to do. 3 months later, Captain Lyra Voss stood once again on the observation deck of her command station, but now the view was very different. New Viridian had been rebuilt stronger than before, its defenses enhanced with human technology and protected by a permanent joint defense treaty. Human ships regularly patrolled the sector, their presence a guarantee that the Ravagers or any other threat would face immediate and overwhelming response. Captain, Lieutenant Zeph called from his communication station. We're receiving another distress call. The Ta City colonies are under attack by something called the Void Swarm. Lyra smiled, her compound eyes reflecting the light of human ships holding formation near the planet. Contact Admiral Kane. Tell him we have neighbors who need help. As the combined human Viridian fleet prepared to jump to another rescue mission, Lyra reflected on how much had changed since that desperate day when they'd sent a simple call for help into the void. They'd asked for backup and received an entire fleet. But more than that, they'd gained allies who understood that sometimes the greatest strength comes from protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had announced its presence not with conquest or demands, but with the simple message that no one would face extinction alone while Earth stood watch. And in doing so, they'd begun to transform a galaxy ruled by fear into one where hope could flourish among the stars.